Hello and welcome back to my Let's Challenge of Final Fantasy XIII. In the last episode we made us our start to Chapter 3 and we're here now with our new team of Lightning, Saz and Vanille, having left Snow digging away at, just up there, as hopefully you can see in the corner, digging away to try and rescue Sarah from her crystal prison. So now we're going to make our way here. So we have a new team, and essentially Saz is an interesting character, but over the course of the game, but at the moment he's not, because he can only be a Ravager, and that really actually limits the amount of flexibility we have with our teams. This is literally the four paradigms we can have. I also moved around Saz's Crystarium a little bit, got him to learn Flame Strike as well. He's also holding an Iron Bangle, I believe. So, the next part of this chapter is obviously just going to be continuing on learning to get to grips with this new team, and the best way to do that is to deal with these relatively difficult Brush and Bass enemies. Indeed, without a Sentinel, these guys actually can be very difficult. I'm going with attacks at the moment rather than blitzes, and the only reason for that is just because they do that little bit more damage. Does attack does more damage than and also obviously hitting an enemy twice raises that stagger gauge that little bit more than hitting them once, just a little bit more, and it can make a difference. So what you might notice is that obviously each character has the sort of varying speed as to how fast they release both their attacks and their spells. Saz, for one, has a very sort of flowery motion. He sort of does a lot of you can see there, I mean, he's doing lots of arm movements, lots of like firing the guns behind him and all this sort of stuff, and that, you know, that sort of, I guess it's the opposite of no-nonsense way of going about it. It's actually kind of frustrating because it does mean that you get fewer attacks for you over the course of time, just in general. Whereas Lightning is pretty fast. She gets off all of her attacks pretty fast, which is actually very which makes her a good lead character in general, actually. But generally I find that your choice of lead, because as we'll get much later on in this game, we'll actually get the chance to choose the leader for our paradigms. And that's almost entirely... It's usually depending on what sort of spells I want to have control over. Is that screen not focused? No, it isn't. Okay, let's just focus it. Apologies for the lack of focus. Anyway, so one thing we're going to do, the map.
Do not shake the slippery tube. You come on this. Do not shake the slippery tube.
That's obviously if you walk along the tube up top, but we're actually going to take this this one down here just for the moment to grab these two items. So Saz is essentially directly above us in many ways. We're going to be able to collect a pair of Deneb Duelers. So they decrease strength but raise magic, whose magic is stronger anyway, so we'll do that for the moment. Hopefully he'll use fire more often than Flame Strike, but we shall see. So we'll head up this rather steep tube and go our way around. I do like how I was talking about, like, you know, how we're going to be able to choose characters. That doesn't happen for a very long time. I probably shouldn't have brought it up. Anyway, we need to be in much. As someone who's afraid of heights myself, I don't appreciate Vineal's little advice there. So anyway, we're going to go down here to get more items, but we're also going to get an introduction to the next enemy, which is a Bloodfang Bass, and they're essentially... I thought I got a... I was hoping I got a... whatchamacallit? A... preemptive strike, but unfortunately it was not to be. Yeah, so... As you can see, Bloodfang Bass are very, very weak. They go down very, very fast and aren't really anything to worry about. They're only really scary if you encounter them in large numbers, and that's... and with these Brescian Bass, because the Brescian Bass do a lot more damage than the Bloodfang. But they usually come in sort of large groups, and you just got to... but you can thin them out if you get a well-positioned blitz. Or even just a few basic spells will actually take out those very weak amphibians, I guess they are of some sort. So another battle with a mixture of Bass, Blitz, and then we want one that's sort of in the middle. That'll do. Nice. We should get stagger, and then there we go, lovely. Lovely work. Okay, cool.
Still couldn't talk to him. You'll never get past this if you don't say something.
Words won't change anything. But next time we meet, he'll learn exactly how I feel.
So we'll pop up here, take on these Pantherons. Come on, you guys. Get him. Ah, there we go. Wow, I actually attacked him before that spell. You'll also see that the various spells will actually take various lengths of time to reach. So a Thunder spell is much faster and lands much sooner than a Water spell, for example. Okay, so obviously the map tells us that we're going to need to investigate that. I'm just going to show you what happens if you head down here without doing that first, because might as well show off everything. So if you head this way, you'll notice that there's a dead end.
Then, huh? Hey! Lightning! Over here!
This thing's a wreck. I don't think we can use it.
So we think it's a wreck, but we'll move back, and as we do so...
Can we use that to get out of here?
If we examine it,
Operational.
we open the way forward and obviously wake up a few enemies along the way. This is probably... it's a relatively tough battle. You can see there are 3 Brescian Bass in this group, which isn't great, although if we get a preemptive strike that will help. Yes, that's brilliant. That will help hugely. Because now, I mean, my Blitz should pretty much take out half of these guys. Lovely. I should... Ah, really? The other Bloodfang bastards are not a threat at all, really, and we'll just we'll take them out when it comes to it. Should hopefully get staggered pretty soon. There we go, beautiful. Preemptive strike helped a lot there, which is always nice. So we're going to be able to make our way through this crystal cavern, and now we're going to get an introduction to a new something called a technique. And techniques are certain skills that allow, as you can see, Saz is in his well, doing a very weird pose there. So this is an alpha behemoth, which obviously is quite a well, slightly better than a beta. But yeah, so essentially, what battle technique is? Let's just go straight to try disaster. This shouldn't be too hard a battle. We should just be able to stagger this guy pretty fast if we keep swapping between. Relentless Assault and Try Disaster, and there shouldn't really be any threat of him actually completing that his charging animation. There shouldn't be any real threat of him finishing that, so it should be fine. But yeah, so Libra is a technique, a very important technique, and what Libra does is, there you go, charging power 50%. Pretty sure he goes like to 90% or something like that. Speed up. So what Libra does is Libra gives you some information about the enemy, essentially, immediately. And the benefit of that is that means your AI will immediately attack those weaknesses. So for example, given that this guy is weak to water, it means that I believe Vanille, who knows water as a Ravager move, will only use water and won't actually turn to using arrow. Obviously, and that's straight from the start, rather than spending, a fair few turns trying to learn that. And Libra is useful obviously in certain boss battles, and other situations like that. Libra is just invaluable, really, where given that a huge amount of this game is sort of, you do get quite tactical, and you do have to, be prepared to deal with your opponents and what they have. A Libra scope there is essentially, so if we go to our data log, and you go to enemy intel, essentially, like for example, so feral creatures, pteraquatics are the Bloodfang and the Brushian. So normally, obviously, there you have the tick. The tick, besides, it means that the log entry is completely filled, so you have all of this information here. And the way you usually do that, in the case of these two enemies, is obviously you just battle them. And you battle enough of them, you learn enough information about them, and this happens. Now, for the alpha, as you can see there, it doesn't have the tick next to it, and that's because we still don't know certain information, in this case the rare drop. And the reason, essentially, it takes 2 casts of Libra to learn everything about any enemy, or it takes using a Libra scope, and a Libra scope is the item that we just picked up, and that gives you all the information straight away without needing to use a Libra. And Libra scopes are really useful because they also tell you all the information about all the enemies. So if you've got a battle with multiple enemies you've never met before, the Libra scope tells you everything you need to know immediately, which is really, really good. I do often quite like to try and maximise all of my log entries so that all of them have ticks, just because I can be a little sort of... just sort of, it annoys me if they're not. But a lot of the boss battles and stuff like that, you don't always, you cast Libra just to make them faster, but generally you'll have all the information by the end, as we're going to get another cutscene.
must be hunting down purge survivors.
I hope everyone made it out okay.
So do I. But nowhere is safe for them now. Damn it. Just cause they shared a neighborhood with a foul sea, they get treated like pulse-tainted rats.
People really hate Pulse, don't they?
Not hate. More like fear. Tens of millions of people, all scared of Pulse boogeymen. They'd be shaking in their beds every night if they knew that the sea like us were around.
But they purged that entire town.
It's crazy, I know. But the Sanctum Fauci did nothing to stop it. Up until now, Eden's always stepped in to correct their errors in judgment. Guess humans aren't worth the effort. Figure they'll let us just kill each other off.
The sea are not human.
Listen, you, that's enough. We're still alive. That's something.
What? Where is it?
I don't know.
There!
They're sealing off the area. They're trying to trap the stragglers. We gotta get moving before we're caught in the net.
Hopefully, if there was any focusing issue, I just noticed again in the recording. Hopefully that sorted it, but yeah, annoying. Anyway, so yeah, so obviously these are the cruisers that Slaz mentioned just before that cutscene, and indeed another sort of illuminating cutscene there, giving you some information about how Cocoon as a whole sort of views Pulse and everything about it. As we're going to get a new enemy here, these are, what are they? Psychom trackers. They're essentially very similar to, not the Wardens, the other ones that we met in the previous chapters. Just basic Psychom soldiers. Again, like I said, they come, all Psychom soldiers come in pairs, one with gun and one with melee weapon. These are obviously the melee weapon. They have slightly more health, slightly more annoying. But, nothing too much to be worried about. And most Psychom soldiers have essentially no like specific elemental weaknesses, whereas certainly a lot of other enemies you'll find end up having lots of shared elemental weaknesses, which is always good. What on earth are you doing? Some sort of weird dance? Anyway, we'll make our way up here. Ah, these enemies. Okay, so these little drones are some of the tougher enemies in this area, actually. They're pretty resistant, and they're just annoying, ultimately. And they do quite a lot of that. Essentially, they've got a specific attack which does quite a lot of damage, and you've just got to be aware of it. So we'll try and stagger this. There you go. There it is. Electro Kick. Electro Kick does a lot of damage, and also has this annoying habit of interrupting your moves. Come on. There we go. So obviously these watch drones are largely only a problem when you've got lots of them. Lots of them they can be a bit more troublesome, but a group of 3 like that isn't too bad. So we're going to be able to go down here, pick up another item.
Sure would have made things easier.
I only casted Leaper on him because I was wondering whether I just have this vague memory that he might be one of the few enemies in this area where we don't actually naturally learn all of the information about them just from battling. I might be wrong, might be completely wrong, it might have been a waste of Libra, but to be honest, at the moment, we've got there's no real downside to casting Libra because so the techniques, obviously, they do have a cost associated with them. But currently, we only know 1. And so yeah, so you have your technical points down the bottom, and in TP, as you know, and obviously you have a maximum of 5. You raise the bar by killing enemies. You lower the bar by using techniques. Libra uses 1. We'll end up with getting much more and more techniques, which are far more sort of useful than just using Libra actually, and you do want to sort of save up your TP at times for them. So now I'm going to start scaling this sort of massive crystal wall. Obviously you can go 2 ways here. We'll choose the outside way. Because you get some items if you do. So we're going to head over here quickly just to grab this another item before we're going to face off against another new enemy in this area, which is this Velacycle up here. And the Velacycle can be a pretty tough enemy, can be pretty annoying, but it shouldn't be too bad. It's just so near. Essentially, it's another. It's got Beam Gun, which is sort of like an enemy which it will charge up, and then it does 150 damage. Which obviously it isn't ideal. I would have loved to stabilise the. So come on, Vanille, heal yourself. Good. Just get to try disaster. Let's just go this thing. As you saw there, the stagger actually interrupted its attack, which is one of the many benefits of getting staggers. But let's assault now, hopefully to go for the kill. Should hopefully be able to finish it off in this stagger. We might struggle actually. Just going to Thaumaturgy to obviously replenish the ATB meter, and also, you know, being Ravagers during stagger isn't actually a terrible thing. You obviously continue to take that stagger bar up. If we can get a few more attacks in before. Ah, there we go, beautiful. Well done, our Ravagers. Definitely wanted to finish that guy off within that stagger. Would have been annoying otherwise. Okay, cool. So we will continue to move on. And another cutscene.
Whoa! This whole place is crystal.
I wonder what it'd be like to become a crystal like me.
You're gonna complete your focus?
Maybe. If I knew what it was. Yeah, I probably don't want to know.
Hey, Lightning. Did Sarah say anything to you about her focus?
Nothing.
You know what? She probably didn't want to worry you.
Or she just didn't think she could trust me.
Oh.
It is a beautiful idea, this. I do like the way they sort of made this lake just come alive in a way in terms of this environment. With sort of like all the foam being crystal and other things that, you know, make absolutely no like physical sense. Like I have no idea how that becomes crystal, as it were, but
Stay sharp.
alright, let's get this one down. Nice. We'll want to go to diversity next just to protect Vanille. Electric kick is going to do a lot. I should have gone to diversity, not thaumaturgy. Oh. Hopefully we'll finish this guy off in this stagger. No matter how briefly lived it is. So these guys are weak to electric and water, actually. So that explains it. Also, the other thing is that obviously Libra will also give you very important information about various enemies, like if they've got certain special moves, if they use certain attacks more than others, like, you know, certain elemental attacks, etc. So that's always why the information is very useful. And whilst these early battles, because you don't have the access to the elemental synergy roles, so, you know, synergist and saboteur, it's nowhere near as important to be checking your Libra. And also, I guess I know this game relatively well, having played it multiple times, and so I know, you know, that auto battle will deal with most of the enemies along this way. But if you, if you continue, once you get later in the game, you will start to use Libra a lot more. And so, here we are. The Gates of Antiquity here at Lake Brescia. So, this is actually probably going to be an excellent place to call this episode to an end, I think, because we've got a nice little save station here, and we've got this, obviously, this large change in scenery, so I think this is a good chance for us to call this episode to an end. Once more, again, we're just making solid progress through this chapter. In the next episode, hopefully we'll be able to finish this chapter. We've just got to get through these ruins at the end of chapter 3, and then we'll move on to chapter 4 and the Vile Peaks. But I hope you have enjoyed this episode of my Let's Challenge of Final Fantasy XIII. We still haven't lost a life, we still have 3 lives, so that is all good and dandy. And in the next episode, we will try and finish chapter 3. I hope to see you then.